And Ron, Joey Leveille, thanks for coming back on Fitness and Consciousness.
Thanks for having me again, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, last time you were here, it was in the olden days of just audio, and so stepping up into the video age now. Um, so you're a personal trainer, movement coach, and everything, but you're going to you're another Ido Portal workshop tomorrow, right? Or you're leaving tonight, but it starts tomorrow, or?
Yeah. It starts tomorrow. It'll be like a 2-day event where there's 6 hours the first day and 6 hours the second day. And the workshop's called Motion. So there's a couple different areas of interest in there, but one of them is nonlinear strength. So developing strength outside of this like traditional push-pull fitness paradigm. Like another area is using the floor and moving with the floor, communicating. So that's how they phrased it. I'm not exactly sure what we'll
Hmm.
be doing, but they told us to like bring long sleeve shirts and pants. So that's just a couple things. I know we're going to do some somatic work with embodiment, and I'm guessing some breath work in there too. So I'm really excited about that. Every time I go to one of these Edo events, you come back and I mean I'm still digesting the material from the first one I went to like 3 years ago. So each time it's like it changes the whole way you look at movements and gives you so much content to go through and different skills to master. So I just can't wait to see what this one has. So excited.
Yeah, I bet I'd like to get to one of his. So you've been to like three or four of them, haven't you?
Yeah, this will be the third one that do.
Yeah, he's always doing like just kind of like pushing um, the edge of movement and like what's possible. And when I first started looking into him, however many years ago, a bunch of years ago, it was a lot of like animal movements, and so he's like doing this lizard crawl and like all these like. Um, and when we were talking for just a minute before, I was saying like I'm not really seeing so much of that now. I see like one guy, I think his name is Eero West.
Hmm.
Um, I see him doing a lot of really cool animal movements, but it seems like I see a lot of other people that maybe like were doing the animal stuff that they're kind of moving on to something else. Are you seeing the same thing, or is that just?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like Ito is very particular about what kind of content they put out there, and before I think it was they were putting all those animal movements out there because there wasn't a lot of people who were doing it,
Mhm.
but really caught on. I mean, there's a lot of people using it. So what I noticed is, I mean, he does all these research into so many different areas that whenever he posts something, he's particularly choosing it because he feels like it's needed in the community. So yeah, he he makes a point of like choosing the thing that you're not expecting, and
Mm.
then out more videos and like assigning the teachers who teach under him. Like one thing I've noticed recently is juggling a soccer ball.
Mm.
I had a lot of different instructors like just juggling a soccer ball, like with your feet, and a skilled, soccer player would do. So I noticed that, yeah, you don't see as many, but oh, it's just as prevalent. Everybody I know who studies him, they do the animal movements still, and he considers that like a real basic staple. So
Mhm.
you be seeing people get a little more exploratory, but I guarantee you they're still doing the animal movements because it's kind of hard not to when you start like blowing on the ground and um, you know doing capoeira uh, or anything really. It's just a part of the movement. So I don't think you're going to see that disappear probably ever.
Yeah, I really like it. And usually that's how I begin my classes. I recently decided to combine the kids and an adults class. And so I was like there was like some kids that like moved and they're like several things happened where it was like mainly just like these two kids that were coming and they were getting good. You've probably seen them on my Instagram and
They're awesome.
they're like getting really good. One's 10 and 14. And it's like they're ready for the adult class. They passed my level one. They were the only ones that passed my level one for kids, like for kettlebell training. And these are
Oh,
strict standards. It's like I expect pretty much the same as I would expect from an adult, but maybe like less reps or something like that. But so I was like, I think I'm going to combine my kids and adults class. And I thought about it, I was like, there's some things that were going to be taken out. There's, but some little changes I was making. But yeah, we normally start out with animal movements. So instead of starting off with like, we used to start with like mobility stuff. So like working from like the head down and just like shoulder circles and that kind of stuff. And now just like get right into the animal movements, get kind of loosened up and warmed up and ready to move. And then we'll start adding kettlebells or other strength things. So yeah, I think the animal movements are like you said, like here to stay. It just seemed like, I guess when I was looking, I'm seeing like, I guess some different patterns. Maybe it's just part of like who I'm watching too, because I'm like watching these people and that's what they're doing. So, um, like, do you know like examples of the techniques you'll be doing? You're talking about communication with the floor, and do you know
yeah.
like have you seen what it is? Have you kind of been practicing or?
Yes. Yeah. I definitely practice that kind of thing. I'm guessing it draws heavily on like modern dance techniques. There's a lot of principles that apply to your philosophy about the floor. For example, like a lot of people nowadays, they have a bad relationship with the ground. You know, they're worried about falling,
Hmm.
or they don't want to touch the floor with their hands or their legs, or get down on your hands and knees on the floor. You know, it makes people cringe because their knees aren't used to the pressures, things like that. So I think what it is it'll probably get us down on the floor, and from there they'll probably have us do a few basics, like things that you learn when you're a baby, like flipping over and things like that. But that'll just be like the very tip of the iceberg, because from there they'll probably start throwing all these different puzzles at us, like just off the top of my head, like maybe they'll be like, you can't use your right arm is limp, and now keep moving on the floor and just keep moving. See if you can work around that, and maybe then they'll say, okay, now you can't use your left arm and your right leg, now move on the floor. So a lot of it will be just challenge after challenge, and then in between those challenges, explaining why we're doing it, explaining the logic behind it, explaining the benefits that you get from it. Sometimes when they give you the puzzles, like no one will be able to figure them out for like 5 minutes. And then finally, like one guy will get it, and they'll be like, watch this guy, and then give us another chance. And then in the end, they'll show us the solution. But there's a lot of this, like, first try it, and then we're going to just hand you the lesson later, versus saying, this is what it's all about. And because it's almost like too much information coming at you. So instead, they just want to get you immersed in doing it, and really
Wax on, wax off,
yes,
and
yes.
then you get your mind blown later on.
Yes, man. Definitely. And they're cool about not getting too heavy about it. They were just like, look, this is what it is. Like, they got a good sense of humor. Um they're not all self-righteous about it. Like we have the secrets. There's none of that, which really attracts me to the whole method. But yeah, man, it's going to be a blast. I guarantee you that I'll probably be uncomfortable like 75% of the time. Even though I've been following this guy for years, even though I try and practice the stuff, I'll probably be real because to go there with a bunch of like-minded strangers and try to solve these puzzles, and we're probably going to be like pushing on each other and pulling on each other, and by the end of it, you're going to feel like you just really had an experience, like strangers became almost friends tonight. It's a really cool experience like that.
Yeah, I don't know why, but your audio, it sounds good most of the time, but sometimes there's like little like glitches or something. So I don't know if like it doesn't look like it's moving, but I don't know if you know why that is. If not, don't worry about it.
Okay.
It's cool for the most part. But yeah, I was wondering like what the vibe was like there, because like Strong First is like, a lot of people probably know I'm certified by Strong First as a kettlebell instructor, and it can be kind of somewhat militant, kind of military. Like this is like, I mean, it's not like they don't have a sense of humor or anything like that, but it's pretty strict. I mean, it's like high expectations, and I'm going for my level 2 actually in April. But I was, what was I just going to ask you? Yeah, so I was wondering like what their, so you were talking about like being uncomfortable. And like when I was going to, I went to a new jujitsu class, and I'm kind of like feeling it out, and I wasn't really sure. I mean, it was like a nice bunch of guys, but like there's something about when you go to a new class, and like I was telling a buddy about it, is like I kind of want to feel like I just fell over the rail at the zoo. And it's like, oh, whoa, where am I? What? I don't even know what that is, but it could kill me.
Right.
I don't know what's going on here, but I'm going to have to like fight this thing, and I'm going to be, here we are. And I want it like that kind of feeling, instead of like, I already got this. I already know all this stuff. I'd rather like be uncomfortable. And like my main jiu-jitsu class that I started at, like the traditional style, like I left there feeling stupid a lot of times. Like I didn't like leave with my chest puffed out and feeling super great about myself, like I was the toughest guy. I was like, man, I need to change a lot. I need to try harder, and not just like at jiu-jitsu stuff, but I just need to do a lot of stuff better. And so like, do you, like when you're at those kind of events, is that like, you kind of get like that sort of feeling out of it? Like you don't want to be the best one there, right?
Yeah. It's interesting because there's no way you're going to be as good as everybody at everything you do, just because the challenges are so diverse that, there's going to be somebody there who just, they have body length proportions that are just more suited for that task. So it's weird. It weirdly breaks your ego down, and kind of shows you that it's not really about what you're doing, but it's about how you're doing it, and about navigating those problems with a certain degree of grace, and not entering that like, angry monkey kind of concept. Instead, just breathing and taking a second to just try and figure it out, because all these puzzles, you're not gonna sit there and like think it through in your head. You're gonna have to think it through with your body. And so like sometimes you'll get into this part of your body that you're just dumb in. That part of your body is just dumb when it comes to that particular pattern. It's lost, and you have to kind of preserve yourself and kind of protect your own mind for a second, saying, look, like this is like the first time I've done this, and this whole thing is designed to get me to this place. So now that I'm here, I want to really be present and not just immediately retreat into my head. It's good like that. So by the end, you're just completely out of that zone. You get to skip the step of questioning yourself. You're just doing it or not doing it, and succeed and not succeeding. And then as soon as you do succeed, there's no real moment of like, aha, aha. It's just, okay, what's next? And then
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned the ego, which is another thing I was thinking about us touching on for our conversation today. And then you just told me you were about to start yoga teacher training.
yes.
So, where are you doing your teacher training, and what made you like? Why are you doing it?
That's a good question. I'm doing it at City Yoga, which is like downtown around 25th Street. Um, and I picked that place because I know two people, JP, who I know has been on the podcast, JP Rowley, um, and another friend of mine, Rebecca Taylor, and they're both just really good teachers,
Mm-hmm.
and both seem a little bit outside of the dogma of yoga. So we were just talking about like the ego and how that can trick us sometimes into doing things that we don't want to do, or like in my case, I've thought about doing this yoga teacher training for a long time, and every time I'm about to do it, it's like a little voice has stopped me, that was kind of got in the way, and that voice is saying, you're not a yogi, you're this movement guy, don't get pigeonholed into this niche. But in reality, I love yoga and I do it every day, and I want to keep growing as a mover and as a human. And it's kind of tough to find a really immersive experience when it comes to movement and things like that. And the yogis, when they do this training, it's very intensive. We'll only be meeting up like once a week, but it's for like a 5-hour segment. And then you'll do that for 21 weeks. And there's a few weekends that they'll have meetups too. But that's a lot of time. It's like a 200-hour basic yoga certification. But there's just going to be a lot of time spent with the same group of people and with the same group of instructors. So, you can go in to like some kind of weightlifting class, like a boot camp or something like that, and you can kind of put on a brave face and have a class. With something like this, there'll be so much self-exposure that I won't be able to hide my flaws. I won't be able to hide when I get frustrated after a while or whatnot, and I'll get really comfortable with everybody. So I'm interested in having this experience with other people, in an environment that's completely tailored towards this one focus, because I'm tired of just chasing straws, reading books, watching YouTube videos. I want this real life, tactile experience of being in the room with people who have knowledge that I don't have. So it'll be really fun to watch my own ego kind of, not get destroyed, but maybe the edges will dissolve a little, and then they'll reform in a slightly different configuration. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be really interesting. I know you seem to really like the subject a lot. What are your thoughts on that? Like, I know you've had some yoga experience, and what do you think?
Yeah, I got my first 2 yoga books when I was 15 years old at a Grateful Dead concert in Indianapolis at Deer Creek, and I was doing Grateful Dead stuff at the time, and so I was just, I don't do anything now. I haven't touched I don't drink or smoke or anything now, but so I was on like some acid, maybe a substantial amount, and smoking weed and probably drinking, and that would have been it. That was about all I did. I didn't get into like, that was as crazy as I got pretty much. But I see this guy walking, and he's like, has these books by Prabhupada, and it's about Krishna consciousness. And so I get and it's all about donation. So he's a Hare Krishna. So he comes up, and so I get like two books. I think I gave him like $5 for two books, or $5 each, or something like that. And it's the journey of self-discovery and the science of self-realization. And so I was like looking at the pictures, and I was like, it was blowing my mind. And not just because like the LSD, it was like, because even afterwards, I still have some of those books. Now I have yoga books all over the place from the library. I probably have about 10 out from the library right now, or something like that, with CDs and books. And so I'm always like constantly studying this stuff since then. And so then so that was when I was 15. So I'm like reading about more like karma yoga, bhakti yoga. So this is like different. We're not worried about like poses and stuff. There's no like, I wasn't reading about, here's how you do warrior two or something like that. And then when I started my jujitsu class, it was like traditional Japanese style. And a lot of our warm up looked like, I started that when I was 18. And a lot of the warm up, if you just like walked by and looked in the window, they're like, oh, it's yoga class. Why are they wearing jujitsu clothes? And looks like they're doing yoga. So like our warm up looked like yoga stuff. And then I think it was the first yoga class I went to would have been about 5-6 years ago or something like that. And it was at Santosha in Indianapolis here. And like at first, see how honest I want to be here. But well, at first, because there's like kind of like a little dark road we could take. Anyways, at first I met the instructor, the owner, and I thought, man, he's a pretty high level. He really knows his stuff. He was a Sanskrit teacher, and he was an American, but he was teaching Sanskrit at an Ayurveda college, and so I thought he was a pretty high level for a couple weeks. And then it like kind of like normalized and stuff. I'm like, okay, he's pretty good, but I wasn't so super impressed. Like he knew a lot of stuff, but yeah, it was like, well, to be honest, I found out like he was kind of like doing some creepy stuff with the girls in the massage room and stuff, and I knew them personally, and they told me personally, and so that's why I can, this web podcast can be heard all over the world. I'll say that, and if he has a problem with it, come on the show and talk about it. But anyways, I heard it from the women themselves, more than one. And so anyways, I was like, once I heard about that, I had already been going there for a while, and I had started the process of learning to go. I was planning on to be a yoga teacher, and through him, I was going to do the 500-hour certification.
Sure.
And it was going to take over 1,000 hours because his was so detailed, and he's like 500 hours really isn't enough time. So to get it through me, it's going to take like over 1,000 hours. And I started teaching a martial art class at his yoga studio, and I was all in all glad I went there. I met, a really cool woman, ended up being like my girlfriend for a couple years, and that was really cool. She influenced me in really good ways. But once I started like finding out more, then I quit going there. But so I was like starting this thing about taking, this 1,000-hour commitment, and he even said I could do it for free. So he's like, wow. He's like, you're going to be one of the best yoga teachers in the country. And he didn't say that to me at first. He said that to the girl that ended up being my girlfriend, and he said it to some other ones that were like, because he was supposed to be like the teacher's teacher. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about or not, but he was supposed to be like this teacher's teacher, this amazing guy, and he was telling some other people, he's like, yeah, Ryan's going to be one of the best yoga teachers in the country. And that was like way before he said anything to me about it. And then I remember like meeting with him because I quit going to the classes and I was still going there to teach. And then he's like, oh, well, let's have a meeting and talk about this stuff. And he's like telling me I can go through the training for free. And he's like, but you need to like come to the classes and stuff. And then he's like, I know you see me as just a guy, but, and I was thinking like, yeah, you're just a guy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, because like some of these people and like some of these like women like looked at him like he was some sort of spiritual being. Like he was like more spiritual than me or you. He was like, he's this yoga teacher, the teacher's teacher, the yogi's yogi. And I'm like, yeah, you know a lot of stuff, but yeah, you're just a dude to me.
Yeah.
And so it kind of maybe like soured my taste. And then he was like, okay, if he was like serious, because he did know a lot. So if he was like, okay, if he really did think I could be like one of the best yoga teachers in the country, I'm thinking I'm going to overhaul the system then. So if I'm going to be this yoga teacher, I'm going to change it. So I'm like, I'm just going to change yoga. How about that?
Yeah.
And then it was like, and then it got to be like, well, instead of doing that, I'm just going to do my own thing, and people can learn from me what they want. And so I add a lot of that because to me, yoga isn't just like warrior two. We're doing up, dog, down dog, that kind of stuff. To me, that yoga is that stuff that I learned about when I was 15 at the Grateful Dead concert, where it's like a lot to do with your behavior and your ego stuff and your devotion and love and this kind of stuff. So whether I'm doing like kettlebell clean and press, why isn't that yoga?
Right.
Like I would say, or you're doing a snatch test and you have to snatch a 53-pound kettlebell 100 times in 5 minutes. You're telling me you're not going to like be facing some demons during that? I mean,
Right.
Or like you're be able to concentrate. Try to like think about your credit card bill when you're doing that snatch test. Or to think about like what other problems, they don't exist. What exists is you are right there. You have to be in the moment. So then I've been going to, I haven't been for several weeks now, but I was going to a class at City Yoga. My friend Adrienne, she's a really good teacher. She teaches there. So I was going there. And so I always kind of had this thing where I'd kind of like to do this yoga teacher training and, but why? Like, do I want to be called a yoga teacher? Or do I want to be, what is it part of me that wants to do that? What am I trying to get out? And the girlfriend of mine that I met at Santosha, she was a yoga teacher and she taught yoga teacher trainings. And so I was like talking to her about it, like, cause she knew all over town and stuff, the different yoga trainings. And I was still kind of thinking about it. I was like, which one do you think I would like? Which one would be good for me? And she's like, really, a lot of these things might be a little bit too like feminine for you. I don't think you'll like it. I think so yeah, this like yoga thing. So if I'm gonna like sit there and like have like these like feelings exposed, and I can talk about like my feelings, especially if I'm in a relationship with someone, I can talk about stuff. But yeah, that ego, it's weird because it's like this podcast. So what do I want to do? Well, I want to do stuff I want to be able to like help you out. I want to get you exposure. I want more people coming to your workshops and classes and just like hear what you have to say, even if they're in, people in Mexico, people in Japan, people in India are going to be hearing this. And so what do they have to do with you? But maybe you can say something and you can expose them to some idea and so it can like help them and it can help you. So what am I doing here? So, it's like, yeah, I want this to be I want it to be the best podcast on the planet for fitness and consciousness related topics. I've had some awesome guests. You scan through my guest list. I have some big hitters on, and I have even more coming. And it's really amazing to me. So I can think like, oh, I'm this awesome guy. Podcast has been heard in like it's getting like somewhere around 100 countries now. But then it's like, well, it's also not just me. It's like because without the guests, then it's really not that that great. I mean, I did like two of them by myself. The first one was like an introduction to the podcast, like what it's going to be. And then I did one like a introduction to the five elements, my five elements theory of training. It's kind of like my own system. The five elements are mobility, stability, strength, power, and endurance. And it's like the combination of those. It's this alchemy of this magical thing: mobility, stability, strength, power, endurance, where the magic happens. So it's stuff that's like very, it can be like very Western mind. Here's exactly how this method, but it also has like this Eastern feel to it, like something magical is happening. It's like the ego, it can be, but it's like also without the ego, it's like, yeah, I'm good enough to do this. I want to get better, and I study how to, like how conversations work.
Yes.
And I study a lot because I don't think I'm like good enough, and that's it. I think I'm good enough. Yeah, I'm ready to do this, and I'm having guests. I'm getting big names. I'm good enough to do that, but I also want to get better. So it's like this ego of, yes, I'm good enough, but I'm not so great that there's no room for improvement. There's a lot of room for improvement, and the way to improve, it's like, this is how I improve. I have these awesome guests on, and I can look back and like, oh, this is what I did really well. This is what I need to work on. And yeah, the yoga teacher training, it's really appealing to me because it is something that I study a lot. So when you decided, like this voice in your head that was telling you these things, like what made you decide, okay, I'm signing up, I'm paying for it, I'm getting my card out right now, I'm online, I'm pushing click, I'm pressing, I'm putting my numbers in, and I'm hitting confirm. Like what made you decide that, yes, this is what I'm doing?
Yeah, I went there. I was like, uh, I wouldn't call it like a covert operation, but I kind of went there like, I just want to see what these guys are about because, nothing gets me more like upset and makes me a little riled up when like you encounter people like that guy you were talking about where they think that yeah, they're more than a person and that they're more than other people a little bit, because those people, there's certain like characteristics that you see with them. Like one is, they just kind of just like the way they hold themselves, it's weird. It's like not quite like chest out, but like they're always trying to stay just a little bit higher than you, and they kind of have this like super calculated thing, and their voice, the way they use their voice, it's like they're trying to hypnotize. And then a lot of times I find those people have a kind of a shitty practice.
Oh,
Like
what
they
practice?
like a real shitty practice.
Oh,
Yeah, like it's really incomplete. So, and you can see it once they start getting going. Like, you can see their ego. You can see them overwhelm themselves, or if they just don't try at all, and you literally never see them practice, and they just talk about it. So I went there because I wanted to know for sure that this would be a good place, and I just got lucky. I was taking one of the classes was like a hot vinyasa class, and when I was in there, the owner, he happened to be there, so I got to talk to him, and then he joined the class. So I got to see that he's like the real deal. He's in there, and he's, not. It's not like I look over and I'm like, that's impossible. I'll never do that. I didn't see anything like that. But what I did see was a guy who didn't seem to have much ego. He wasn't, he wasn't trying to overextend beyond his abilities, and you just didn't really notice him. He wasn't like trying to stand out like, this is my studio, doing it here. You guys are so lucky to be with me.
he's just
There's
a guy.
just a guy, man. Just a guy. So that was a big thing, was just recognizing the feel of the place. None of the instructors seem to have too big of an ego, and um, yeah, it kind of freaks me out if like everybody in the same building is kind of using like similar language or similar, like, just like a light touch on their voice, all the, like that's not what I'm looking for. Because that feels too culty and weird. So when I got in there, I saw people who are just ready to teach yoga and seem pretty authentic to me, not this fake spiritual authentic that you see sometimes where if you were to like make a joke, then people feel like they can't even laugh because they're trying so hard to be spiritual.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, that was really the clincher. Is just going there and testing them out by just being there.
Yeah, I do like that place. I've done a few things there, a couple workshops and some classes, and um, yeah, it is a cool place. And I've heard that the owner, like Adrian, she was saying that like he doesn't try to like micromanage what people do. Like you're a teacher, he trusts you. That's why he hired you, and so do your thing. And so yeah, I've heard just pretty much nothing but good things about the place, and I haven't seen anything I didn't like there. And so that's a really cool thing. Are there things that you think you're going to be learning that you don't think are real? Like, so you're going to be learning about the, so like something that kind of I think about is like you're okay. So sometimes they'll be like you'll be learning about the chakra system, and you might be learning it from someone who has no direct experience of it.
Right.
They learned it from someone else.
Yeah.
They understand it at whatever level, but maybe maybe they haven't actually had any direct experience of it. And or so like that. And what about like say like extreme like forward folds with your legs straight, like locked out straight? Or are there things that you think you're going to be learning that you're like, actually, no, I learned that that's actually bad for you? Because injuries in yoga it's crazy, the injuries in yoga.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. Because that's another thing that kind of kept me from maybe getting into this earlier is I was afraid that there might be so much kind of filler nonsense that I wouldn't be able to really get into it. Because you get that with different things. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few things that I don't really get my head around or just are bullshit. Probably because when it comes down to it, every discipline has bullshit. And I know I have bullshit that I don't realize is that later on. So I'm willing to eat a little bit of shit, basically. At the same time, I'm going to try and keep an open mind. This idea of meshing. So, like, instead of thinking like there's truth and then there's not truth, I'm more of the opinion that no one has the truth and everybody's just like approximating. So what I try to do is, and it's a lot more challenging than like just being like, well, that's nonsense, is I try to put it into like the same concept into other words and frame it in such a way that I can weave their beliefs into my beliefs. So like meshing, I'm trying to mesh these different ideas and philosophies together. And if it just can't mesh, then yeah, I probably won't try to remember it, and it might not do much for me. But when you try and do that, I'd say like 80-90% of the time, there's some way, like the chakras, for example. Like different philosophies that believe in chakras, they say that there's a different number of them.
Mm-hmm.
So like that right there, how do you navigate that? Is it 7 or is it 12? So like personally, if you look at chakra and say, okay, how could this be real? What's a way I can try to like play devil's advocate for chakras if I'm being skeptical? Then I would say, okay, well, how many vertebrae are there? Maybe that's how many chakras there are. And maybe they're just lumping these vertebrae into like 3 or 4 of them into one chakra. And that's just how they're kind of discussing that area of the body. Just like how if you, in Western science, you know, you'll say like the lumbar spine or the thoracic spine, you know, they've just more delineations. But, you know, it's interesting, man. I mean, it sounds like BS, but like I'll be singing sometimes and I'll have different areas of the spine, just like, it's like literally just feels like it's vibrating in that particular area of the spine. And it's not always in the same place. And when you have something like that, you're like, well, this is very tangible. I could see why someone would try to create a name for this and try to create more connections based off of this. And yeah, so I just kind of try and reinvent chakras in my head, and then maybe I can discuss it with somebody instead of just being like, nah, man, that's bullshit. Because yeah, I mean, describing energy in your body, you know, just because you don't put the word chemical or mechanical in front of energy doesn't mean it's bullshit. So I'm going to try and refrain from getting too dogmatic, man. You know I don't like dogma, so I'm going to do my best to keep an open mind.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I can, like I saw the Sahasrara chakra in kind of like a dream state. I wasn't really asleep. I think I wasn't really awake either. And I just saw it. I mean, and it kind of looked like, kind of like my brain, kind of, but it was like, it was like purple. And I think like kind of like, it actually, that instance, it made me start keeping a dream journal instead of, but it wasn't really a dream though. It was like, it wasn't like any other dream that I've ever had. This was a different kind of thing, and I just saw it, and it was kind of like this luminescent purple. I think maybe like some like green in there or something, but it was just like it. It didn't stay the same color for a second. It was like this. It was, and that was my interpretation of it. That was the Sahasrara chakra. And it was very much like my brain. So just because I think that, and I know that, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that wasn't the Sahasrara. Maybe that was something else. It was the right color. Maybe. Was it the right color? You know, so there's like things that we can like, and I wrote it down because it really blew my mind because this was a different kind of thing. And I can feel like the microcosmic orbit. So I can feel that. So it's like I don't mind telling people about my experience with the Sahasrara chakra. If I just try to look at it right now, it's not like that experience that I had. That was a one-time thing so far. And I've had a lot of esoteric experiences, but like the microcosmic orbit, I can feel that. And I can almost do it on demand.
Now, the microcosmic orbit.
So the microcosmic orbit, it's like the Taoist system. So it goes up the back and it goes down the front. So if you like contract your perineum, like you and you pull it up, then like it'll send the energy like up the spine. And then it comes down and it stops. Like I'm pointing to my third eye spot for those that are just listening. It like stops there for a second, and then it goes down. And on the way down, for some reason, for me, like I can feel it like almost at demand. Like I go up my spine, and then it stops at the third eye spot, like inside, not like right at this skin level. But and then for me, like I don't really see it or feel it go down the front very much. I have before, like to varying degrees, but that thing up the spine and hitting there, I can feel that, and it's and you can use that to like increase like sexual vitality and like maybe like for martial arts and and then so it's like the microcosmic orbit and then the Taunton system. So it's like the lower abdominal and then like more like around the solar plexus area and then in the brain, I guess you could say. And so it's like I'm pretty comfortable talking about that because I've proved it in myself and I've had that direct experience. But for me to say like the like throat chakra, so like we were talking about like singing, well, and also like having your voice. So I can like think as a, so like whether the throat chakra as however somebody is picturing it right now as this lotus of however many leaves or whatever, that's one thing. But okay, so what about it as a philosophical concept of finding your voice and being able to like say what you think? And so I can kind of relate to that like with this show, because like something that that's really comes up for me a lot is being able to articulate my thoughts and being able to ask the guest the question that I'm really wanting to ask, which a lot of times I have like no time to prepare. So it's like I know the guest is coming on, so like I have these things to talk about, but they might say something and it triggers these ideas for me, and I want to learn something more, but I don't quite have the words to say what I think, and I'm not like the wordsmith of a Shakespeare or a something like that. So I don't have like all these questions written out perfectly, and so if I'm like trying to explain my own philosophy, I don't have it all down exactly. So you could say like, oh, I need to work on some like fifth chakra stuff. And so maybe I can, think about it that way as a philosophical concept, which is true. You can prove that. Where if I'm trying to like prove it as a esoteric energy center, that might be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because it's like, well, there's clearly matter here, so we know there's energy here.
Mm-hmm.
But the quality of that energy, I think, is what makes like the chakras a little different. Is they're saying like Western science would be like, well, Ryan, like you need to strengthen your left and right vocal cords, and maybe your jaw articulating, more fluidly and in a more precise, coordinated fashion. Whereas like somebody who's like coming at it from the chakra standpoint would be more probably like holistic, where they're like, hey, like just what's going on with this whole area, and like what are your emotions like when you consider this area? What has been your experience? Have you ever gotten whacked in the neck, or like have you ever like gotten a neck injury? What were those circumstances?
Yeah. Or emotionally like closed off, like maybe this wasn't the case for me, but maybe somebody when they're growing up, they try, hey mommy, shut up, I'm talking to someone. Oh, come back later. Comes back later, hey mommy, shut up, I'm talking to someone. Like, I don't have time for you right now. I don't have time for your. So maybe they have this emotional, psychological thing where they can't use their voice, or maybe they're in a relationship with someone where they can't use their voice. Maybe it's the woman, and and the man thinks she's supposed to be this submissive person. You're not supposed to be talking. You're supposed to be doing some dishes, and you're supposed to be cooking me food, and that happens still, and all over the place. So maybe it's something like that too, where but yeah, it's just so it's worth it. So when I was talking about it, I wasn't trying to say, yeah, this is a ridiculous system, why are you doing it? I want to like get your view on it, because I won't say that it's not true.
Right.
uh, and it's like, but like, yeah, even if you're reading like supposedly from authentic Indian, real life Indians, they're like one of them will say it's the chakras they're in the vertebrae, they're all in the shushum. They're not the nerve plexuses like this other guy is saying. And the other guy is saying, well, actually, the chakras are these nerve plexuses. So that's how we can relate this to the Western mind. It's the nerve plexus. And the other Indian is saying, no, it's not. And then somebody else is like, oh, these are philosophical things. These aren't physical things at all.
Right, right. It's interesting. My first question is always, um, you know, it, what comes next? Like how does my behavior change, or how does this affect the day to day? Like how can I make it affect the day to day? So for me, it's like it's less about whether or not I know it's true yet, because if I haven't even tried to make it engage with the idea in reality, if I haven't done that consistently for any length of time, then how can I even make a statement on whether or not something is true? So I'm more about just like whenever I'm listening, I'm always like, okay, how do I put this into practice?
Mm-hmm.
What's this look like in my life? And if there's no way to get into your life, then it's like, we can talk about it, but I'm probably going to joke around a little and not take it too seriously because like, there's just, I mean, we might as well just be stringing nonsense words together at that point. So yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. Like, it's definitely good to question these things and maybe never fully accept them. I feel like you can like 75% accept something and still get benefits. Sorry, my cat's about to knock the phone over. And never really accept it. Like why, you don't have to just dive in headfirst into every pool you get to, because maybe it's not deep enough to dive into, and you're going to walk around with this head full of beliefs that are going to lead you nowhere. I'm interested in like, okay, like let's say like the chakra thing. Okay, let's work on that throat chakra. Why am I working on throat chakra? Because I want to connect with people. I want to feel like conversations go well, and I don't want to feel like there's a big part of me that was left unspoken.
Mm.
He's just kind of like peeking out from behind a wall there. Or like, sometimes situations are really delicate, especially as a teacher. You have these delicate moments sometimes. I'm sure you have this too, where you can tell like it's a make or break moment where someone's about to give up, or they've gotten so frustrated it's not really conducive to their learning for you to just keep pushing the way you are. Maybe I just need to adapt my voice just a little bit here, and then that calms their nervous system down. Or like, man, like maybe you'll be training with somebody and it's like, damn, like this person forgot their coffee this morning. Like they're coming in on like 3 hours of sleep. But they need to get a little bit more amped up. So maybe the way you stand, is different. Maybe the way you kind of sit back and start projecting a little more. And then they kind of mirror your actions and bring themselves up too. Do you ever have that happen?
Yeah. And I think I'm not really one of the trainers that like I'm pretty subdued. I don't know, subdued. I don't think that's the right word, but I'm pretty chill for the most part. And the client might be doing something really intense, but I'm not like standing there like Jillian Michaels or something like that, like screaming in their face, one more, that kind of, or it's pretty. I mean, I'll say like, oh, that looks good. Yeah, make sure your knees are over your feet. you know, like I'm giving like some simple directions, but I'm not like somebody asked Pavel Sadulin, who's the founder of the system I'm certified by, like, what do you do to motivate people?
Yeah.
He said nothing,
No.
nothing. And he's arguably one of the best, most influential instructors that changed the world. Kettlebells are all over the place now because of him. They were awesome before him, but he's the reason why they're so well known. It was not sports style that got kettlebells at Walmart. It was his style.
Mm.
And and so what does he do to motivate? Nothing. He has these high expectations. Meet them, don't meet them, but here they are. And so it's kind of, I'm kind of like the same way. So I try to be, I don't try to be hard on people, because people they're showing up, they're paying a pretty nice chunk of change to work out with me, and to learn. And so it's like, I don't really, but I'll say like, there was this meme, because I teach martial arts also. So there was this meme that I saw, and it showed like, I think it was like Britney Spears, and she's like all dressed up at like the Grammys or something like that. So she's all dressed up, hair is really done, the makeup, this, you know, probably $50,000 dress and all the jewelry, and you see her like getting her Grammy, and she's at the podium, and she has like this huge smile on her face. And the meme was, when you're at jujitsu and your instructor walks by when you do a technique and casually says, "Nice." So the instructor walks by, is like, "Nice," but you feel like, "Oh my God, I got the nice." I
Yeah.
didn't get the, you know. So it's like, as you know, we don't have, and then there's other instructors who are, and I'm not saying it's like the best way, because like we were talking about JP earlier, he's like clapping, he's like, "Oh, you're so awesome. That's what you're doing is awesome." He's really, um, in a way, the polar opposite of me. I'm not saying that he's wrong or he needs to be more like me. I'm just saying that's a different kind of thing, and people like him a lot. He's really knowledgeable and very good, and just it's all genuine. It's all very genuine
Yeah, man.
also.
Definitely.
So, what's your like? Do you have a motivating style? Or are you talking about using your voice differently? And like, are you like like what's it look like when somebody's training with you? Are you like, what kind of side are you falling on?
Yeah, it's very different between like a group class and then just personal training, like one-on-one or two-on-one or even three-on-one, kind of same thing. But yeah, it's very different when it's one-on-one person. And I really try and change it. Uh, like the beginning of the session, I'm really trying to assess like what's going on, and like whether or not, like if they're in a funk, I'm like, are we gonna be able to turn this around today? So sometimes it's like I go into like a little bit more of the JP style. Um, but if I notice myself getting too like stuck in one kind of frame, like I can tell that every time I say nice, it's losing value.
Mm-mm.
So I just kind of pull back, and I wait until until I find that level of encouragement that's like working for that person on that day. Um, but yeah, you can tell when it becomes a little meaningless to offer too much support, and sometimes I just catch myself being a little too supportive, or sometimes I catch myself pushing a little too hard. And to me, like the fact that I'm not making just one of those mistakes is a good sign that I'm being dynamic in my approach and I'm being authentic, because people are not just one way all the time. And if you try to be supportive all the time, you end up coming across as ingenuine, and that's because you are being ingenuine. No one is supportive all the time. Or like if you catch yourself like in that intense mode all the time, I would be really worried about myself. I would be like, all right, like like, what's the big deal here? You know, is there something going on with me that I feel like I'm taking it out on this person? That's like the last thing I want to do. Or, you know, maybe I just have more energy than the person. And even though I want to shout at him and be like, yeah, yeah, you got it, you know, and I want to give him hard tasks, um, you know, I just have to reel that back. And I don't feel like that's being untrue to yourself, because what I really care about is getting this person into their bodies. And I'm willing to tamper my energy down. Otherwise it's like an ego thing, you know? No, I'm feeling good today, so like you better raise up.
Mhm.
Simple, but I found that tailoring it like that, so many times on a daily basis, I'm lifting people out of their hole, and that's a huge part of it. Is just like, you know, if I don't get that by the end of the session, then I feel disappointed in myself a little bit. Even though I recognize it can't always be done, I still feel a little disappointed. Like, hey man, like, you know, I'm not their like preacher or their pastor, but I do feel like a need to connect with them on a level that, you know, for lack of a better word, like spiritually, like I want them to be so engaged in what we're doing that that it's almost hard for them to like turn away. And if there's a distraction, they're annoyed by the, they're like, you're interrupting what we're doing here. Like, we got a good flow, and I want to preserve that. And yeah, man, I don't know. It's fascinating to me, because the work I do on it never ends. You know, I don't think you're supposed to feel satisfied 100% with how you interact with people.
Yeah, not be satisfied 100%. Yeah, always looking for like, what can I be doing better? Am I getting in this rut? And how much like small talk do you make during your sessions? Because I find myself like I'm not really a big like small talk person, and so like sometimes I'll be like with a client, and you know, we're pretty much like from one thing to the next, and I might, you know, if there's like a little time in between sets, and I usually don't time breaks unless it's a specific thing that like you have so many rounds and you get a 30-second break or something like that. But some might say, oh, what'd you do this weekend? Or do you have any plans for this weekend? But like, so I'm not really good at some of the other stuff where I'll find like some of the other trainers, um, they'll like maybe more like better at the small talk. Some, you know, some people want some small talk and some people don't. So what I might look at, you know, like somebody and they're like talking during their session, I'm like, you shouldn't be talking like that. They should be focusing on what they're doing. But
Yeah.
that's not what the client wants. The client wants that individual wants to be talking during, because it's not just about I'm here to lift a weight like this 10 times. You know,
Right.
it's a whole thing. It's a relationship. So like, what, like, are you making small talk, or do you save it like for after, or like what do you?
Yeah, it's a good question. Because I'm not want to consider myself very good at that usually, but having this job and having working with enough people who are like damn near insisting upon making small talk, I've gotten better at it. And uh, you know, it's it's like a part of the trust sometimes. So that's where I see a lot of value in it. Is you um, you kind of keep that trust connection strong. So I kind of use it as a way of like, you know, like I'll put someone into a compromising kind of position or challenge or something, and then maybe we just like chat a little bit in between. But at the same time, sometimes it like kind of kills me inside that we're just like talking, and I got like stuff I want to show them, stuff that they're gonna enjoy, and I know they're gonna enjoy it, because I just, you know my clients well enough, and I'm just like, like, dude, this problem that you've been talking about for like, 10 months, if you just like were to shut up right now and we got to work on this, then you'd feel way better about it. But I've had clients like that where, like, I've had clients who just want to talk politics like the whole time, and it was like they were so uncompromising in wanting to talk about it that it was like, lose this client or talk about politics. So I was like, you know what, man, like, this is not a bad person. This is not a bad conversation. And no one else really talks to me about politics like this. So I'm here, like, I'm a trainer, but I'm a human. So I'm just going to engage this dude. I'll engage him on any playing field he wants right now. And I'm going to do it well. So, like, if someone starts talking to me, like, it's almost like a heckler in some sense. With like comedians, where sometimes I feel like it gives you a little bit extra juice with the old throat chakra, and you can kind of throw something back at them, just like a comedian can shut down a heckler. So sometimes I do it like that, and it makes them laugh sometimes, and they kind of get the message, like, okay, I'm gonna get back to this. And other times, like, I keep sending that message, and they just don't get it, so it I don't know, I'm still trying to figure that out, but I do find myself talking more over time, probably. So I wouldn't mind phasing that out a little bit, maybe get into the movement more.
Yeah, it's kind of, I think a lot of people, they don't really have someone to listen to them and they have this stuff and they want to get it out. So like with the politics guy, was he trying to like argue with you, or was he just like?
No, he was like, he really kind of got off on talking about how bad politics are. But he also was a smart guy, and he liked to make predictions about like what'll happen next, or like, so sometimes it became conceptual to the point where we're like, just talking about some political issue, and how we think it's going to change, and then sometimes he'd make some jokes, but yeah, man, I mean, it was like intense. It was like very just, I can't escape, and yeah, like he's kind of renowned. Like, people know about him for kind of being like this when you work with him, and some people don't even want to really mess with it, Like, they have a nickname for him. I don't want to say it, but like, he's kind of famous for it. But I kind of liked it, but
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, some people, they want to get these things out, and like it's. Yeah, but for the most part, it seems like maybe it's because I kind of like just maybe set the tone from the beginning that, like, this is, to me, it's business. I mean, this is a lot of money per hour.
Right.
And, I'm, it's like I want to make sure that this is well worth it. So like right now I'm at 70 an hour. So it's like, that's, I mean, for some people it's nothing. It's not very much at all. But, what else could they have instead? Like, they could have a really nice car for, if they're coming 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
They probably already have a nice car, and some people don't care. You train out people with, they might have a lot of money and they're driving something that's pretty simple and plain, but they'll pay extra. They'll pay for this training because it's their life.
Oh yeah.
And so it's really worth it. But Yeah, it's just kind of a weird balance sometimes of how much to engage. But I usually find like with clients, it's there's not really a lot of that going on, and maybe it's like my personality, like how I come off from the beginning. Like this is business. It's like we have these things to do, and um, but I find that like a lot of my clients, a lot of them are um, they're like ready for the next thing. We get done with squats, and then like they get their drink, and then they're like they shake it off, and they're ready for the next thing. So
Sure.
I just maybe attract people that are like that, and then like sometimes in the kids with the kids, sometimes we'll be like kind of in the middle of something, and I'll have a kid come up and want to tell me about something, and it's like you what do you like kind of like do there? So it's like I'll try like kind of engage for a minute, and then like all right, let's get back to this thing. But when we're in the middle of a 5 minute
Yeah.
um, set of kettlebells, and you come up to me and you're talking about what happened at school, or like that, it's like trying to like teach them to focus too. So um, when you're I get like besides like whatever you're gonna like learn at this, you're going to the Ito Portal thing, and you're doing the yoga teacher training. Are you planning on like being like teaching yoga classes, like and like being a yoga teacher at a yoga school, or are you just adding to your
Hmm.
what is
Yeah.
the
Uh, I'll probably start one at Fitness by Design, where I'm working right now, and bring where I can, to my clients. And also, I'll probably try and start a class there. I already teach like a balance and mobility class, but there's a lot more of the eat up or tall concepts, and we're rolling around the floor, we're throwing tennis balls at each other and stuff like that. But it would be cool to just teach at the gym, just like a pure yoga class. And it would be pretty cool to be like, yeah, like I'm a certified yoga instructor. Here's my thing, and now, but once we start like like content of the class, like I would just have to make it my own. So I'm gonna add my own style to it, and I'm sure there'll be there's no way I could just like teach like a Bikram yoga class or something like that, where it's like, we got 26 postures, here's the cues. I just do it exactly like that. So I would love to teach a yoga class, but I'm also just I'm trying to mesh more. A lot of people have approached me about one-time events or classes. But once I found out that I didn't have the certification, they were, yeah, okay, mind. The biggest part of it is adding to my practice and my clients. And part of it is like, yeah, I'm going to do this legitimately. If there'll be a lot of people interested, there's a lot of yoga studios around the same area. So people, kind of like their church, they want to go to their studio. That male yoga teacher is harder to get a following with, um, but I don't know if that's true.
you said the male yoga teacher? You're like cutting out, but you said the male teacher is what?
Yeah, like I've heard from people that being a male yoga teacher, it can be a little more difficult to get a following. I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's even objectively true, but have heard that from a number of people, men, women, who teach you. It's, it's I think it's interesting because I want to know, why. Uh, Part of it is it tends to be more women in the yoga class than men. 100% of the time. I can maybe think of one occasion where I've been in a yoga class where there's more men in there than women. Uh, and we were all like talking about it. We were like, like, wow, this never happens. And there's only like, 4 people in class. We're all guys, and we're just, wow, this is weird. Um, so I don't know, man. I would really like to share some yoga with people, and you know, guru who abuses their people in the process. I would like to find some kind of really approachable way of teaching yoga that has a bit of my style, but also uses the principles of yoga. Without betraying myself too much. Like, I don't want to give people the impression that yoga is the end all be all. When people say stuff like yoga is everything you need, yoga's got it all. Or another one that's fun is like yoga works every single muscle in the body. Uh, that's no, it doesn't, man. Like, there's no healing at all in yoga. You're never hanging with anything. So you're even uh, really not jumping. You jump back into chaturanga or whatever. But it's like hardly a jump at all. And it's a need in our body to do things that are not in yoga. I mean, damn, what about dancing? There's no dancing in yoga. There's a what just finding what the strengths of yoga are, and then by I'm a big fan of that idea as well, of just like, okay, we got this box. Now you can really be creative, because before you had the box, it was like teaching people. It's hard to really package it in a way that they want it, in a way that time. So I think it'd be cool to put together a little yoga series. Like, hey, like this week, guys, we're gonna work on emptying the body. Head, your forearms. So yeah, man.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. Your audio is starting to cut out more. I caught most of that, so I don't know what the I don't know if it's because it's like pouring there. It's sort of like pouring down here. So I don't.
Oh yeah.
But hopefully that it's picking up, because it should record on both ends. So even if I don't hear it, it might still be.
Okay.
But yeah, I got the gist of it for sure. We can start to kind of like wrap it up here. Is there anything we haven't got into that you're wanting to, like, how can people get a hold of you for training? And
Sure. So probably the best way to do that would be to get on Fitness by Design website, Indianapolis Fitness by Design, or you could probably just search Indianapolis and Joey Leveille. You can find you there. You're also welcome to do Instagram. You can send me a personal message on there. So my Instagram handle is Fearless Sloth. That's all one word, no spaces or anything. So that's another way. So you just send me a message.
yeah, and just to repeat that in case people didn't hear it, it's Fitness by Design in Indianapolis, and then Instagram is Fearless Sloth. And let's see, then what were you saying after that? I just want to make sure, because it was cutting out a little bit still, so I want to make sure people get the.
Sure. Yeah, those are the main ways. Yeah, if you want, I can give you my email, and then you could put it in the description if you want. If people want it just directly email me. It's also an option. Chances are, I'm probably not going to travel anywhere to meet up with somebody, but if you're in Indianapolis, or to talk or something like that about training or something like that, then maybe you can get a hold of me through one of those means, and be glad to talk with anybody who's like really serious about movements. Is movements. Like I know like you feel passionately about this too. The reason I'm coming on the show today is because I'm just so passionate about the way lifestyle of exploring the body, exploring the way your body works and the way that you express yourself to the body is one of the most empowering things that I believe is out there. I think it is the thing, even that, but it's just so true. You know, to me, it doesn't matter where you're at, what you're doing, still should empower yourself by exploring this stuff. So any opportunity I have to put a couple ideas out there, it's huge for me because I plan on doing this for the rest of my life. And I hope that this movement is going to just keep growing. Especially as, you know, things become a little more confusing with the amount of information out there. And like, you know, should I join a CrossFit gym or should I, you know, not just love to be a person says, look, it's like, you don't have to be so extreme about this stuff. There's a little bit of something here for everybody. It's going to work with you. It doesn't matter if you know you don't have any legs, if your brain's not functioning properly. You know, I work with all kinds of people who have these limitations that you wouldn't believe. You know, paralysis, or some of them are missing actual bones, or both. And I just am so inspired by the fact that it does not matter. Like everybody can be empowered movement practice. So having these conversations and for really like, you know, trying to get people together. Like we have this human animal event coming up here at the end of the month. Because it's been in my head since I moved up here. The fact that it's really come together like this makes it all seem possible. It makes you feel like what, like there is a change happening where people are looking around at our lifestyles and rather than like getting disgusted and defeated, this thing out there get a hold of and do it. So yeah, man, thanks for having me, and like let's keep doing the good work, man. I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's cool to have you back on and just have be able to talk about several different things and see where it goes. I think it's, you know, it's good for people to have these different ideas and to hear a couple people that have the experience that we do, kind of like work these things out. And like sometimes it's not like you come up to a conversation as I have all these answers, they fit in this box, and I'm going to make you believe it. It's like, here's kind of like where I am, and I'm so I can like come out of it as like I'm trying to sort out my own thoughts, and a good way to do that is to bounce them off of you. And then I think about it, I was like, oh, I said that, but you know what? I don't really believe that now. And or it's like, you know what? Actually, I said something. He said something that made more sense to me. So now I'm thinking more like that. And so I think just conversations like this and podcasts like this, like I try to like not exactly copy the way Joe Rogan does it, but it's how he gives people plenty of time to get their word out. And it's different than like if you start looking into like starting your own podcast, the advice that you get. And a lot of them will say like, do it between like 20 to 40 minutes, maybe like the 15-minute things. And like if I might by myself and I'm trying to explain a concept, then maybe like 20 minutes is good. I don't want to like just ramble by myself for an hour and 15 minutes. But like to have somebody else and like start digging into these thoughts, and it's like kind of like sorting out our opinions together. And so it's really cool. So I always forget, like if for people that are just listening, we do the video on YouTube. And if you want to get a hold of me about the show, the email is fitnessandconsciousness@gmail.com. If you, wherever you are in the world, we do these remote guests. So if you want to be a guest, then send me an email. Or if you have like comments about the show, just whatever feedback, I'll take it. Fitnessandconsciousness@gmail. So any other closing thoughts?
Just keep moving, man. I just want everybody to keep moving and keep so what they're comfortable with and getting outside of their streets and yeah, man, just happy moving. Get out there and move and meet up people and move and go with a little bit and keep growing, man, all the time. Never stop growing. Yeah, man, I would love to come on again sometime. I know that we've talked about maybe discussing some other stuff too. Like I would love to maybe want to talk about like Lyme disease sometime. It'd be really cool to share some of that. So yeah, if people are interested in that, you can leave a comment or something, and you want to talk about it.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, thanks again for being on. I'll go ahead and stop the recording, and thanks everyone for listening. The show is it's pretty amazing to me how it's taken off and how it's like seeing the map of countries that it's been heard in, and like this starting out as this idea I had in February, and my idea is, I want to have the best show on the planet for fitness and consciousness related topics. And I'm not already a famous guy. I think my certification gets me some respect, and it helps me to get some of the bigger name guests. But I'm also not just trying to get like the more and more famous guests. I am doing that, but that's not all. I want to have, if people have like the story to tell. So if you have like 200 Instagram followers, or you have 200,000 or 2 million, for me, it's not going to determine whether you get on the show or not. It's do you have a really interesting story? Do you have something cool to share? Then I want to have you on. And fitness is a wide range of topic, but the consciousness part of it is really can include a lot more. So I don't just want to talk about like, oh, you do bench press 3 sets of 8. Wow, okay, that's cool. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, somebody's actual programming, but to dig deeper, and like the fitness part of it is kind of just like a place to start, because it's the world that I'm in, but it's not like just it's like just a lot more than that. So I appreciate everybody listening and sharing, and it helps to or subscribe to whatever it is that you're listening to, and feel free to give me your feedback. So thanks again, Joey, for being on, and we'll talk to you soon. I'll go ahead and stop the recording. I'll talk to you for a second off the air.